Oh, hello, neighbor. Didn't see you there. It's so nice to have you join me today. We have a new video coming at you. We're going to talk to you about Airbnb. You know why? Because there's been some new legislation passed as of July 24th, 25th, 2018. So, New York City Council just passed a new law about registering with the city if you want to rent your home on sites like Airbnb or VBRO. Airbnb, lovely site. Everybody's probably used it. I know I have. But in New York City, we have different laws, and we also have a very strong hotel lobby that's brought a lot of resistance to Airbnb in our city. If you want to sublet or rent your property or your room for under 30 days, it's technically illegal. There are some caveats, such as if you have a townhouse, or if you're the owner and you have a floor you want to rent, or if you are technically still sleeping in the place that you are subletting for the night, there you could have an argument that it's legal and you can do what you want. But for most purposes, any sort of subletting or renting out of an apartment for under 30 days in the city of New York is technically illegal. Now, in the past, there's been a lot of pushback against Airbnb, and I think for some good reasons. I enjoy the site, but I do see a lot of downfalls and issues that come with the site. For instance, a lot of people feel that a huge part of the affordable housing crisis in New York, which we do have, is partly due to Airbnb. I know a lot of friends and family and people who I know who have multiple Airbnb properties that they do not own, and they rent them out for profit, for large profits. So a few years ago, they changed the rules on Airbnb where you could really only have one or two listings in I think it was a city, or I'm not sure if you could do it for other areas, but I know in New York City that was the case. Now, privacy comes into issue here because with this new bill passed 45-0 with the city council, Airbnb would have to register every property on their site with 40, 50 plus thousand listings on their website in the state of New York, and a fine of $1,500 per listing. That could be a large sum of money. In addition to that, earlier this year, the city set certain guidelines and limits on how much you'll be fined. I believe it was escalated to $7,500 for an illegal Airbnb. There was actually a Sunset Park man who was just recently fined $31,000 for his Airbnb practices, but he was claiming that because he was petitioning against the hotel lobby and it was a political issue. Now, New York has a very big hotel lobby. You know that we have something like 50 billion or something, 50 million, I think it's 50 million tourists. I think it's some billions of dollars worth of tourist dollars that come into our city, and that makes a lot of our economic engine run. You know, if you have friends or family or you visited when you're a kid, it's a great place to visit. Everybody wants to come see a little piece of the Big Apple. Mayor Bill de Blasio petitioned to have affordable housing one of his top priorities, and it seems that even though this is passed in the city council, this will also be signed in by Bill de Blasio. But there's also the flip side of this, where a lot of people feel that they should have the right to sublet their apartment when they're out of town or maybe 2 weeks on vacation, and they have to go somewhere for work, and when you're paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, a weekend here, a few weekdays here, that comes in handy. And also a lot of families who grew up in neighborhoods like Bed-Stuy, Williamsburg, certain areas of Queens, gentrification has driven up housing costs, and they rely on this income to help support themselves. Also, I've also met people who are a little bit older, maybe retired, are on a fixed income in the older age from pension, and they use the hosting to help subsidize their life. And who's to say that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. There's also another funny thing is that the hotel lobby is quite large in New York, but there's a lot of pushback. You notice that we don't have hostels in New York. I actually think that this would be a very important change that I think could maybe bridge the gap between expensive hotel rooms, people Airbnb-ing, and finding some affordable option in the middle. There's a law in the hotel legislation that you cannot have more than three unrelated people in a room. One of the last pieces of action that happened from Bloomberg is there was a citywide shutdown of illegal hostel style properties. Now, because of this shutdown, there was a lot of concern, and people who may have be running these businesses all shut down together. It was like it was a citywide sweep of like 50, 60, 100 properties. There are some that were grandfathered in, like up on 106th Street in Amsterdam. Now, the question remains, do we make it totally illegal? Do we let people do it? Or do we get somewhere halfway in the middle? I think that's where we're going to end up. We don't want to end up on the total opposite side where there's a town in Australia where there's no Airbnb allowed. Earlier this year, Madrid in Spain proposed a law that would cut down on 95% of the Airbnb listings in that city. Now, I don't think that's a good thing. But at the same time, people should have the option to use their home as they wish. I think that the government shouldn't be allowed to tell you what to do with your home, just like I think they shouldn't tell you what to do with your body. But there needs to be some limits for protection. I had a friend of mine who stayed in an Airbnb in France, and when they got there, they checked in, they checked out, got totally robbed. Not much you can do about it. Airbnb does have an insurance policy, but we all know how insurance goes. That could take a while to be reimbursed. I also had a friend who stayed in an Airbnb in Manhattan and thought something fishy was going on. It turns out he was being recorded. They actually called the cops. He tried to figure something out to get off the hook, but the cops were involved and that guy went to jail. I had another friend who had a host where he got his TVs stolen and computers stolen that he locked up. And because he was running a semi-gray area Airbnb illegal operation, he didn't report it to the police, and he just kind of dealt with the loss. So I see both sides to the coin here. There's also the party house, is that there's a lot of people who rent out a house and they fill it up and they party it and they trash it. There needs to be some sort of repercussions. So I hope that this doesn't have a total crackdown. I hope that people's privacy is protected. And to finally, sorry, I think I might have missed this one, but Airbnb is citing a internet privacy law that they're trying to fight back with this vote by the city council that they don't want to give everybody's information over to the city for the homeowners who are doing so. So I'd like to hear what you have to say about this story, and a comment is great. If you want to message me, that's also wonderful. Just remember to like and subscribe. If you really enjoy the content, share it with a friend. If you have a friend who has Airbnb issues, call me. I hope you enjoyed the show. Click subscribe, like, and I'll talk to you soon.